So I'm going to do a video on my thoughts on the BookTube community, which is the reading community on YouTube. And I've seen quite a few videos in the past, this month, I guess, disputing the concept of well-read. And I want to talk about that because I think that's a serious problem. And I'm going to talk about why that is. And I'm also going to try to offer some solutions as well. So I find that most of the BookTube community now, being a part of it, I guess, for the last few months, I've made book videos for a couple years, but the BookTube community, I don't know when it began, but I wasn't aware of it until maybe 6 months ago. I find that most of the BookTube community are people who are in their late teens and read a lot of young adult fiction as their worldview. And so when they come across people that are more serious readers, or they come across ideas like well-read or educated, they tend to cringe, and rightly so, because it's not really part of their worldview. It's not really part of their desire or purpose in reading. And I want to make this video to be sure that for the mostly viewership of the BookTube community, that there are people out there who do take reading more seriously and are interested in concepts like being educated and being well-read, because that is their purpose. What I see around me in the BookTube community is a lot of people who are reading like they were kids. And when we were kids, there was all kinds of literacy programs trying to get kids to read more. I remember there was stamps we would get, or stickers, if we read so many books in a month. So these token reward programs. And even Goodreads has these kinds of things. They have these badges where if you read, you make up a goal for the year to read 50 books or 100 books in a year. And you get this little 2014 badge. And I've also seen rewards to try to increase the average page length of books you read. So this is also a sign of a disease, I think, in the Goodreads community and the BookTube community, when your mentality, your motivation to read is these extrinsic rewards. To me, that completely misses the point of reading. This isn't eating vegetables. This isn't trying to get a kid to eat his carrots. And he doesn't like carrots very much. He spits them out, but if you give him a toy afterwards, then he'll eat his carrots. Is that the mindset of the BookTube community today? And when that is the mindset, and I think it is, you're going to read shorter, easier stuff to meet that reward, meet that badge. But that is so myopic, because those badges are not going to stay with you in 30 years. But what you read will, if you read worthwhile stuff. And of course, with such a myopic view of reading, it's no wonder that most BookTube videos are under 5 minutes, because people have short attention spans. When they do book reviews, they don't want to say anything critical. They often get the books for free. They just want to tell you that you should go and read it. And I even hear sometimes about top 10 influential books. Don't say why they're influential, just list them off. Really? Why do I care what you think is the most 10 influential books unless you tell me why? What is this fear of standards in the BookTube community? What is this fear of objectivity? This fear of an answer, of what I got out of a book, why I think it's important. Instead, books are treated as a kind of buffet, that they're all the same. You can pick any one you want, especially if it doesn't have very many sales. For some reason, that's a value to pick a book. And when you read it, you should try not to be critical, and you should not expect too much out of it, though, because who's to say what they can get out of a book anyways? That seems to be the mentality. So what should you be getting out of reading? Why are you reading? Now, I can only answer my own question. Why do I read? Well, I didn't actually start reading seriously until I went to teacher's college. And at that point in my life, I thought I needed to be more educated, because I would have likely a greater role in many people's lives, in children's lives, in strangers' lives. And so I thought I had a duty to be more educated. Now, what do I mean by educated? By educated, I mean, and I've said this in other videos, that in a sense, nothing is new Now that seems a little odd, but what that means is that you're able to make connections with stuff you see in the present. And by stuff, I mean everything. I mean ideas that people say. I mean positions on politics that you find in the newspaper or on TV. And also it includes pattern seeking, that you're a pattern seeker. Because I think one of the most missed perspectives of today is that everyone thinks that what they're dealing with is new. Everyone tends to think that their situation is new and has never happened before, and there's no way to deal with it except for just to trudge through. But it's just not the case. We have had a couple thousand years now of civilization, and a lot of stuff has happened. Very few things are unique today. Most things have happened previously. And that's what's so great about literature and history and philosophy, is that we can see all these things happening in the past, or that are dramatized by writers in literature. And we can connect those ideas to what we're dealing with today, because very little is new today. And I think if you read more and read more seriously, you'll find that more and more connections that you can make with the past, and therefore wisdom that you procure from the past and use in your own present life. And another thing I should mention, that another reason why I think the BookTube community is as it is because to really get stuff out of reading, you have to work hard. It's not easy, and often worthwhile things are not easy. And so the kinds of easy reading you do is usually worthless. And what's strange is that people get this for exercise. People get that if you want to be fit, if you want to have a healthy body, you can't just sit on the couch. It's not easy. You have to work, you have to sweat, you have to exert yourself, you have to work that body. People get that. But for some reason, they don't get the opposite. They don't get the mental. They don't get that, therefore, to improve your mind requires also a kind of exertion, a kind of work, a kind of discipline. It seems easier to many to discipline their body, but not their mind, even though it is the mind that disciplines. So for some reason, they'll use their mind to discipline their body, but they won't use their mind to discipline their own knowledge and intelligence and wisdom. And so, for the most part, if you want to learn something, the books you read are going to be more difficult. They're not going to be as exciting as Harry Potter. Sorry about that. You may be able to find books that are written very well. That helps a lot. That are somewhat entertaining. That also helps a lot. But some of the old classics are not written for that purpose, like philosophy, like economics, like history. They are informative and require some exertion. They may require you to struggle, and you can get help while you struggle. But that doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile. Running a mile takes some effort. Losing 10 pounds takes some effort. So does reading, if you want to get something out of it. So, just a few examples. I know that most of us read some Shakespeare in high school. I unfortunately think that most kids in high school are not ready to get anything out of Shakespeare. It's just a toil. And what's unfortunate about that is that because it's mostly a toil, as it was for me, for most high school students, they get a bad taste in their mouth and they don't ever want to go back to Shakespeare when they're older. And that's very unfortunate. But you can get a lot of great things out of Shakespeare. Shakespeare is not written in plain English. And I advise people to watch a movie first to get the general events. Because then when you're reading Shakespeare, you don't have to worry about the general events. You don't have to worry about what's going on, because you know what's going on. But now you can focus on the good parts of Shakespeare. His use of language, his metaphors, his allusions. Now you can get some great stuff out. So, like Macbeth. Macbeth is very short, talks a lot about human hatred, human motivations, human evil, really. And both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth as pinnacles of evil. Othello is not as well read, but Othello is also great for what jealousy does to the mind. The rot of jealousy. Very interesting stuff. Again, I should mention that great works of literature discuss the human condition. The kinds of stuff that you won't find in Twilight, that you won't find in Harry Potter, that you won't find in the latest YA stuff. Jane Austen, classic literature, wrote on women. Flaubert wrote on love, like Madame Bovary, for example. Books and other books that talk about marriage and human companionship. We all are born separate. We all grow an individual life. But how do we then combine ourselves with the wants and desires of another? How can we live with another person so intimately? This is written about in literature, and you can learn something from that. Dystopias, like George Orwell, Brave New World, Huxley, Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. These kinds of books are experiments. These start with a premise, often of some kind of social tyranny. They show you the consequences of bad ideas. These are also interesting too, because the authors are trying to project for you what will happen given certain situations. Golding's Lord of the Flies, which I think many people have read, talks about human savagery. It has a malevolent view of the universe. How about a benevolent view? I think The Fountainhead is a very good portrayal of a benevolent view of the universe. How about human sanity and human psychology? And great books in literature on that are Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, or H.P. Lovecraft, horror and science fiction mixed. These speak to us about human sanity, the human condition. Is this life, from Lovecraft perspective, is this life so destructive and so against human success that one may become insane? Like what is at the depths of human horror? That kind of stuff is chilling, but also fascinating into the human condition. And you shouldn't be intimidated by big books. If you're a Harry Potter fan, and hey, I liked Harry Potter, it was a great adventure story. But those people studied. They took reading seriously. They strapped books to their backs and took them to school. They weren't intimidated by difficult stuff. They studied spells and all that. And so to be more serious about your reading, you should make a plan and define for yourself why you're reading. And I know that won't be a problem here for people because, well, first of all, this video is longer than 5 minutes, so you don't have a short attention span. But second of all, you also must be interested in being well-read and educated to watch the videos that I produce. If you need some motivation and discipline, join a Goodreads group that read classical books. Then you can participate in their discussions and you feel a tinge of obligation to read the book and to participate. And I advise people to get a wide variety of books because you should become generally educated. Just literature won't do it. Just history won't do it. Just philosophy won't do it. You should have books in many genres. Books in literature, books in history, books in philosophy, books in economics, books on culture, on science, on politics, on artwork if you like, on psychology, all the major disciplines. And start where you can. You also might like a book on how to read books, and that's actually the title, How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler, who talks all about the difficulties of reading and how to get through it, and the different levels of reading. And I've actually got a series on that on my YouTube channel. But overall, you should make a plan for why you're reading. Clarify why you're reading. And if you need some discipline, you can find it through groups. If you have to listen to audiobooks, then do that. If you're so busy that you can't sit down and read, which I doubt is anyone listening to this video, then try audiobooks. And forget extrinsic rewards. That's not worthwhile. The only person you have to answer to is yourself for reading and what you get out of it. And it is a long-term goal. And long-term goals are hard. I've heard it said that it's a mark of being civilized when you're able to forego rewards. The longer term you can forego reward, the more civilized you are. And long-term goals that are more difficult to see their results require more discipline to do. And that's this business. That's reading. And so that's why so few people are educated, because the effort involved and the discipline involved make it so a lot of people don't accomplish it. But you can if you try. So I hope this video has been helpful. It is critical, the BookTube community, based on its population and desires, but I wanted to make sure that this was a shout out to those who are out there that are more serious about reading, and that there are others like you out there, and there are Goodreads groups out there that you can tap into, and you can join the few of us who are concerned with the long term and are looking to get something out of